The anime starts with the guy waking up in total darkness, completely lost in the woods and wondering where he ended up. At first, the guy can't see a thing in front of his nose, but soon he notices a faint little light slowly appearing before him. The glow gets stronger, and he realizes it's coming from inside what looks like an eggshell. Since there's a broken piece, he's able to peek outside and realizes he's in the middle of a forest. The problem is, this only raises more questions, especially when he notices that his body just can't handle any movement at all. Before he even has time to freak out of nowhere a status screen pops up in front of him. When he reads the info, the guy is shocked because it's written out clearly that he is a dragon egg. That's when the panic really hits. Then the attribute window fully opens, and a divine voice announces that this screen shows all his skills and stats to make things easier to understand. Still not understanding anything, he tries to talk to the divine voice, demanding to know what kind of craziness is going on. But the voice calmly replies that it can't explain anything yet, because the guy is only level 1. This makes our protagonist really pissed off. Fueled by anger, he shakes his body, which makes him fall straight out of the tree where he was just chilling. He faceplants on the ground and starts rolling uncontrollably down a hill until he finally stops in a river. There, he realizes he can see his own reflection in the water. When he looks closely, the shock hits him. The reflection really is that of a dragon egg. Seeing that the guy is more lost than a blind man in a shootout, the divine voice decides to give him a hand and finally tells him the truth about the situation. She explains that he really is a dragon egg, which in this world is an F-rank monster. If the shell breaks completely, he's done for on the spot. In other words, the guy was already taking a huge risk just by making that little hole to look outside. The divine voice continues the lesson, saying that although dragon eggs are at the bottom of the food chain, they have the potential to become overpowered dragons over time. However, that only happens if they manage to survive, since dragon eggs are considered a delicacy for the elite among other monsters. And since the egg obviously doesn't have legs, the only way to move is in roll mode, just rolling around. Even after hearing all that, it still hasn't fully sunk in. Deciding that staying still is just asking to become a snack, he starts rolling in turbo mode to try to get out of there as fast as possible. Unfortunately, this rush makes him tumble off a small cliff. Lately, all the guy does is fall, and because of that, the system notifies him that his fall resistance has gone up from level 1 to level 2. Even so, the tumble took away some of his HP, reminding him that he needs to be less hasty. Realizing that he's hurt and exhausted, he decides to take a nap to see if he can catch his breath. As expected, when he wakes up, his health points are back to full again. This confirms that sleeping restores the health bar, which brings a bit of relief in this bizarre and dangerous world. After that, he keeps rolling while thinking about what will happen when the hatching finally takes place. He wonders if one day he'll become a gigantic dragon and if he'll be forced to fight enemies non-stop just to avoid being forgotten. While he keeps rolling, lost in thought, he freezes when he spots a giant insect nearby. Sensing real danger, he quickly hides behind a tree and immediately uses his appraisal skill on the creature. The result shows that the creature is nicknamed Egg Devourer, and as the name suggests, the moment the insect detects our hero, it immediately launches a full-on killer attack. The guy rolls as fast as he can, but he knows he can't keep running away forever just by spinning. At this rate, he'll end up getting caught, so he realizes he needs a combo or some kind of advantage. The worm chases him relentlessly to the edge of a cliff, and just as the creature leaps to swallow him whole, the egg dodges at the very last moment, using all its strength, crashes into the creature, and manages to push it off the cliff. The monster goes down the drain in the fall and dies instantly. This becomes the first battle he has ever won in his life. The system immediately announces that he has gained 12 experience points and that he has finally leveled up to level 5. Because of this epic victory, the system notifies him that all his stats have been completely maxed out. The guy is literally maxed out. On top of that, he has met all the requirements to evolve, which opens a menu with the option to choose between becoming a baby dragon or a small dragon. Since he has no idea what the real difference is between the two classes, the system jumps into the chat to give a basic explanation. The small dragon is described as a dwarf dragon race, considered tiny compared to the big ones of the species. But even though it's small, when it's fully grown, the creature is still bigger than a bear and is famous for its fire breath attack that deals massive damage. As for the baby dragon, the system explains that it's not very good for direct combat because its claws and fangs are too short to make an impact. But there's a catch. It has immense potential and over time can evolve into many different dragon species, making it a long-term choice. Naturally, baby dragons are considered an extremely valuable and rare delicacy, both for other monsters and for adventurers, which means the poor thing will be constantly hunted wherever it appears. As expected, our protagonist chooses the little dragon because it clearly seems like the much safer option for him to survive in this crazy world. But immediately after making this decision, the divine voice seems to put its arms around him and says, "Don't limit yourself, my young one." She explains that she has extremely high expectations for him and that he should always aim for the top, seeking the best possible outcome. Upon hearing this, the guy gets all confused and starts wondering if the divine voice said that just because he chose the little dragon as the safest route instead of taking a risk with danger. He recalls that the system mentioned the baby dragon's great potential and how it could take on various different forms in the future. With that in mind, he starts to suspect that the little dragon might not be able to evolve much, or that it might eventually hit a power ceiling and stop changing after a certain point. Thinking about all this, he finally decides to go with the baby dragon because he doesn't want to carry any kind of regret in his heart. Even knowing that the path will be risky and dangerous, he doesn't want to look back in the future and think that he made the wrong decision or that he limited himself out of pure fear of dying. The system accepts his final decision, grants his wish, and in the next instant, his body begins to change drastically. He transforms into a yellow baby dragon, exactly as he had requested in the menu. Along with this evolution, he gains a flood of new abilities and all his previous stats receive a significant buff compared to what he was before. However, despite having evolved and become stronger, his health and mana points did not recharge after the transformation, which means he is still exhausted and will need a good rest before attempting any crazy things. Almost immediately after realizing this, his stomach growls with incredible force, making it clear that he needs to eat something as soon as possible. He looks at the worm he defeated earlier, and to his surprise, the creature now looks quite appetizing. He realizes that if he wants to keep getting stronger and evolving, he'll need protein. And with that thought, his dragon instincts kick into overdrive. Without hesitating for even a second, he goes over and devours the entire worm. After filling his belly, he lies down and falls into a deep sleep. When he wakes up the next morning, he feels renewed and full of energy, thanks to the good night's rest he had. He heads straight to the river to check out his appearance in the water's reflection. It's at this moment that he fully realizes he really has been reincarnated into this new world. However, what he finds very strange is that he has no memories at all of his past life. The guy can't remember who he used to be, what kind of life he led, or even whether he was a man or a woman before. Just as he's getting lost in these philosophical thoughts, he turns around and notices several shadowy worms appearing right behind him. This time, instead of retreating, he charges forward and throws himself directly at them using his new combat skills. The guy takes out the first wave of enemies in record time. As he keeps defeating more monsters, he unlocks even more extra abilities, which makes the fight easier and more efficient for him each time. After clearing all the enemies from the area, hunger strikes again. But he doesn't want to eat the shadow worms, since he remembers that last time they tasted awful. So he spots some mushrooms nearby and decides to try them to see if they're any good. This quickly turns out to be a terrible idea, because he soon realizes they're poisonous mushrooms and starts feeling sick. After suffering the consequences of that forbidden snack, he firmly decides that he will never eat random mushrooms again. With this lesson properly learned, he ventures deeper into the forest in search of real meat prey, because he doesn't want to survive just on nasty worms anymore. He explores the area for a while until he spots a grey wolf nearby. Even though the wolf is much bigger than him, our hero manages to use his baby breath and dragon punch to defeat the beast. Then, he lightly burns the wolf's skin and upon smelling the aroma, realizes it smells exactly like barbecue. Driven by curiosity, he uses his breath to roast the meat a bit more, and when he finally takes a bite, he discovers that it's absolutely delicious. After that, our guy finds another grey wolf and crushes the poor thing almost instantly, which makes him jump straight to level 20 out of 25. With this checkpoint, he realizes he still needs 5 more levels of pure grinding before he can evolve again. As soon as the wolf is gone, he repeats his Master Chef routine from before and starts to realize he's getting spoiled by this dragon life. Hunting, soloing monsters, and eating like this is becoming his new normal. But there's a catch. Even though he's getting stronger and more buffed, having only the divine voice to talk to is starting to get really lonely and totally boring. Because of this, he finds himself wishing from the bottom of his heart to have a best friend by his side to share the journey. And wouldn't you know it, his wish is granted in fast delivery mode? It doesn't take long before he hears voices coming from somewhere far away. He doesn't understand a single word of the language they're speaking, but the relief is huge because he knows that sound is coming from humans. He quickly hides behind a tree and just stays there, watching a small group of adventurers approaching. At first, he thinks about showing himself and trying to start a conversation, but then he remembers, wait, I'm a dragon, right? He's unsure whether they'll attack him the moment they lay eyes on him. Even so, he thinks that since he's small and looks cute, maybe the humans won't see him as a threat. He even daydreams about being adopted as a luxury pet. With this hopeful thought, he steps out from behind the tree and stands in front of them, striking his best, I'm harmless and adorable pose. Unfortunately, the plan flopped big time. The adventurers didn't find him cute for even a second. In fact, all they saw was a drop of valuable meat right in front of them. Without even thinking twice, the leader of the group comes up and slashes our protagonist across the chest with his sword. Right after that, the guy uses a spell that makes the little dragon's whole body go numb, stopping him from moving. He tries to escape desperately, but his body doesn't respond because of the paralysis effect. While he's there, defenseless, he sees the guy slowly walking toward him, just getting ready to deliver the coup de grace. At that moment, it hits him how naive he was to think that a dragon and a human could be best friends. After everything he endured to evolve and survive, it seems like it's all going to end in a pointless, meaningless death. But just as the leader raises his weapon to deliver the final blow, an adventurer suddenly appears out of nowhere and stops him. She says there's no need to kill such a small, cute dragon with such an innocent face. Confused, our protagonist wonders why he's still breathing. A few seconds later, he feels a warm sensation spreading through his body. When he looks up, he realizes that the girl is using healing magic on him. He uses the appraisal skill and discovers that her name is Miriam. Even with her mana almost depleted, she decides to use what little she has left to save him. Miriam keeps talking to him, and after a moment, the system announces that he has acquired the Greek language skill, which will allow him to understand what humans are saying if he levels up this skill. But the moment of peace lasts even less than a common item drop. Out of nowhere, desperate screams echo from somewhere up ahead. Miriam immediately recognizes the voices of her companions and, without even thinking, runs off to help. Before she can go, our little dragon grabs her arm, desperately trying to warn her to stop, because whatever is up ahead is far too dangerous for her to face alone. Even so, she breaks free and heads toward the danger, leaving him behind. Our protagonist realizes he can't just stand by while the only person who saved his life is at risk of being turned into mush. Summoning all the courage he has, he forces his body to move and runs after her. When he finally arrives at the scene, his fear reaches a new level as he sees the monster causing all the chaos. It's a rock dragon, a rank C monster. To make matters worse, the creature has 197 health points, which means it takes an absurd amount of damage to bring down this stone wall. Miriam is already injured, and when our hero calls out to her, the rock dragon turns its attention directly to him. Face to face with that giant creature focused solely on his existence, he is paralyzed with fear, unable to take a step, wondering if this is the moment when the lights go out for good. Our little dragon pulls off a miraculous sidestep and dodges the boss's first attack. As soon as he lands, he mentally curses himself for being stupid, thinking that if he had joined the fight when the three adventurers were still standing, maybe they would have had a chance. But now the cow's already in the mud because the rock dragon is anything but small. It's literally a murderous wall. With fear knocking at the door, he hides in a bush and stays put until he spots Miriam, who's barely hanging on with a ridiculous 6 hit points left. The problem is, the boss locks onto her again. Our protagonist freezes, not knowing what to do, until the divine voice lays it out straight. Either you run now, or you're going down with her. The little dragon knows that mathematically he doesn't stand a chance. His stats compared to the boss's are a joke, but his conscience weighs on him. After all, she was the one who saved his skin before. In a burst of courage, he jumps out of the bush, shouting that he's going to return the favor and tank this mess. As he runs toward danger, he uses his rolling skill to dodge the boss's rock-throwing attacks. And look at that! The system recognizes his insane dodging skills and gives him a new title, King of Evasion. With this move, he manages to stun the rock dragon for a brief moment. Taking advantage of this opening, he checks out the situation. The old mage is already gone, completely out of HP, and the swordsman is down to 5 HP. Basically, 1 foot in the grave. The rock dragon regains its focus and attacks again. Our little hero stays in Sonic mode, rolling back and forth, desperately trying to draw the monster's attention to himself, doing the classic kiting maneuver to keep it away from the wounded humans. But the boss isn't stupid and raises several stone spikes from the ground to block his movement. The little dragon takes damage, falls wounded, and sees death coming at full speed. Seeing there's nowhere to run, he decides to go down fighting. Taking advantage of the monster opening its mouth to roar, he throws a dragon punch straight down the beast's throat. Unfortunately, the attack was like throwing a pebble at a tank. It did nothing, and the boss even shamelessly regenerated its health. Even so, this distraction bought him the precious seconds he needed. He grabs Miriam, leaving the swordsman behind, because unfortunately you can't carry the whole team, and gets out of there. Now with the girl safe and away from the fight, he tries to use healing magic but remembers he doesn't have that skill in his build. Using his keen sense of smell, he locates the scent of living people and carries the girl on his back over to them. On the way, he hears the sound of grey wolves, the classic easy XP mobs that have already surrounded him. The little dragon sets Miriam down and gets ready for a one-on-one against the pack. At that moment, Miriam opens her eyes just in time to see the little dragon risking his life to protect her before passing out again. After a while, and a lot of struggle, we see the dragon arrive at the human village, dragging himself and completely battered. Entering the settlement, he tries to shout for help, call for a doctor, anything, but all that comes out of his mouth are terrifying monster growls. The humans react like typical NPCs. They draw their weapons because they have no idea what's going on. The dragon tries to explain that he's good, but the response he gets is a sword slash to the leg, ending up cornered against a wall. The little dragon senses the hostility in the air and realizes that dialogue there is impossible. Understanding that his presence only makes things worse, he decides to lay the mage on the ground and leaves the place, mentally hoping they'll take care of her. While he limps away toward the forest, the villagers order that vigilance be maintained. With Miriam there bleeding out, the village chief orders them to call Marielle. Our protagonist, hidden behind a tree, watches the scene with a broken heart, commenting that it was obvious they wouldn't listen to a monster. As he moves away, the sad sound of the system plays. He received the title of Level 1 Diminutive Hero. Days go by and the scene changes. Miriam wakes up in an unfamiliar bed and comes face to face with an elf named Marielle. The elf explains that she was at death's door and had to use some heavy white magic to bring her back, something she hadn't done in a long time. Miriam, still dizzy, asks how long she was out. The elf says it's been a few days and tells her to calm down, but Miriam is desperate to remember who brought her back. She asks about her partners, Mr. Dois and Grants. The elf tells her the harsh truth, no sugarcoating. Grants is gone, they found his body in the woods. Miriam asks about this Dois, and the elf says the body wasn't found, so they assume he became monster food. When Miriam realizes she was the only survivor of this massacre, she breaks down crying, saying it's her fault for not stopping the guy. Marielle tries to comfort her, saying it's a miracle she's alive and that this Dois was a stubborn guy who never listened to anyone. Miriam tries to defend the deceased, remembering that he wasn't a bad person, that he played with the children and protected the village. But then comes the embarrassing flashback. One night she heard him arguing with some acquaintances, pounding his chest and claiming he could tank a rock dragon by himself. The guys laughed at him, reminding him that he had run away before and his pride was wounded. He promised to come back with the monster's head. That's why, on that fateful morning, he invited Miriam on the suicide mission. Since Mariella was busy, Miriam questioned his sanity, but he used emotional blackmail, saying that if she didn't go, he would go alone and die. Feeling guilty, she agreed to go on the condition that if things got bad, they would turn back immediately. A promise that obviously was broken. Back to the present, Marielle declares the guy was an idiot who threw his life away out of ego. She advises Miriam not to make the same mistake. The elf then comments that she's impressed Miriam managed to escape and make it to the village in such a deplorable state. This leaves Miriam confused. She says, I thought someone had brought me here. Marielle denies it and shares the official version of the gossip in the village. They found Miriam being attacked by a monster at the entrance to the city. Miriam retorts, saying she was attacked by the rock dragon out in the wilderness and passed out, so there was no way she could have walked there by herself. To Marielle, that sounds ridiculous. She says that they found Miriam unconscious and that some guy named Gregory scared off the monster that was on top of her. Miriam, now suspicious, remembers the little dragon fighting against the wolves. She asks what the monster that Gregory scared off looked like. The elf can't describe it because the creature ran away quickly, leaving Miriam with the cruel doubt of whether her savior was mistaken for the enemy. Later on, we see our little dragon waking up good as new. He's amazed at how sleeping in this world is the best medicine, healing wounds that would leave any human bedridden for months. He thinks about the girl, hoping she's alive, and remembers how powerful he felt during the rescue. But reality hits hard. He didn't actually get stronger. If he were really strong, he would have taken down the rock dragon. With his pride wounded and determined not to struggle anymore, he gets up to grind. We see him training hard, using a caterpillar as bait to attract the whole group and take out his enemies from behind in a single strike. The system, always messing with him, gives him the title of villain. He doesn't like the reputation of being a bad guy and goes back to honest one-on-one fights until he reaches level 25, the cap for the next evolution. The system asks if he wants to see the evolution menu, and of course, he says yes. 5 options appear on the screen. Since the names are confusing, he asks the divine ChatGPT to explain the differences. The system starts the lesson. Small dragon isn't about evolution, it's about size limit. They level up quickly, but have few skills and poor evolution paths in the long run. Basically, it's the choice for those who want to survive easily now and be weak later. The protagonist confirms that he made the right choice by picking baby before. The child dragon is the natural evolution of the baby, with better physical stats and well-balanced. The mini dragon has a stable evolution tree but slow growth, which our protagonist dismisses because he's in a hurry. Then comes the mini angel dragon. It gains a protective spirit and powerful white magic, but is weak in physical combat. Remembering that Miriam used healing on him, he considers this option fondly. But the options don't stop there. There's the marble child dragon, a mutant covered in little bumps with sinister magic. The protagonist gets interested, and then the system drops a bomb, young plague dragon. The description is terrifying. First stage of an evil dragon that spreads disasters. The protagonist was about to say, no way, not in a million years, because he doesn't want to end up even more lonely than he already is. But then the system throws out the ultimate bait. This class has the human transformation ability, which allows you to visit villages in disguise, usually to do bad things. When he hears this, his brain glitches. He imagines himself walking around the village as a human, buying bread, talking to Miriam. The temptation is enormous. Is it really worth becoming an evil monster just to have a human appearance? Our human protagonist is stuck in that tense dilemma, frying his brain over whether or not to become a young plague dragon. He already knows the idea is kind of flawed, but since he's extremely worried about Miriam, all he wants is to unlock the human transformation no matter what. The plan is simple. Learn how to become human, live a chill life, and if things go south, he just gives the command to switch back. In the end, he decides to go ahead and accept the evolution into Jevil's plague dragon. The creature suddenly grows, becomes gigantic, and its skin changes to a sinister black and red. Does it look awesome? It does. But when he sees his reflection, he gets hit with a wave of sadness because the look is totally villainous. In the middle of this aesthetic crisis, the system makes an appearance and announces that the ability to see stats has leveled up to 3. The dragon even breathes a sigh of relief, right? But it doesn't stop there. The divine voice also leveled up to level 2, and he even gained the skills of flying and dragon scale dust. His little bite attack also got a buff and turned into a venomous fang. But not everything is hype, guys. The package came with some heavy karma debuffs. Now he's basically darkness, gained diseased breath, and paralyzing poison claws. To top off the disaster combo, the titles of Calamity and Malefactor leveled up. The protagonist is like, it's good, but it sucks at the same time. And worst of all, the system didn't say anything about that so-called human form. He tries to get some answers, but the system just hits him with a, you need to level up more to find out, and leaves the conversation, leaving our dragon hanging and totally pissed off. With no other option, the human decides to check out his new build. He tries to ask the divine voice, but his level is still too low for that spoiler. So he focuses on the attacks. That scale powder is bizarre. He flaps his wings and spreads a miasma that weakens everyone around. And if it's at full power, the guy can wipe out entire nations just by flying overhead. He tests it on a flower, and the poor thing withers instantly, leaving him shocked at the monster he's become. Then there's the diseased breath, which is basically a cloud of radiation that spreads contagious disease and has already wiped civilizations off the map in the past. Desperate not to feel like an anime villain, he goes to check his titles. Tiny Hero is for those with a shonen protagonist attitude. It buffs weapons and helps with evolving for good. He already thinks, if I level this up, I'll avoid the evil dragon route. But then there's the villain title, which is the mark of a psychopathic villain who leaves a mountain of bodies wherever he goes. This title buffs dark damage, but messes up regeneration and makes it impossible to learn white magic. Regret hit him hard, and he just wanted to reset and go back to being a baby dragon. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, Marielle and Miriam are doing a checkup on the protection stones. These stones are the village's firewall, creating a barrier to keep monsters from getting in. Marielle admits that the stones are more of a placebo effect, a charm to keep people from wandering where they shouldn't, because if a more persistent monster, like our protagonist, wants to get through, the barrier can't handle it. But since it's better to be safe than sorry, they keep imbuing magic into the amulets to keep the signal strong. Miriam, who has developed a strange fixation, starts asking about monsters again. Marielle finds all this interest odd, and Miriam spills the gossip. She feels that the little dragon she saw in the woods saved her life. Marielle immediately asks that classic friend question, "Are you in love with a creature or something?" Miriam denies everything, but gets all flustered, unable to explain herself. So the elf decides to give a little lore lesson. She explains that monsters evolve, get stronger, and go around hunting everyone to farm XP and level up. Miriam asks if humans have that too, and Marielle confirms, but says the difference is that monsters have a level cap, and when they reach the maximum, they evolve to a higher rank. Miriam is amazed at the struggles people went through in the old days to figure these things out, and Marielle already gets annoyed. She remembers that she told this story not long ago, about 11 years back. Miriam counters by saying that at the time she was only 5 years old and remembered Marielle from down below looking up at her. The elf, who doesn't like people talking about her height, does that indignant spin and gets back to the serious topic. She explains that every now and then a special group spawns who can hear the divine voice, like heroes and saints, and that's how they know everything about levels and evolution. It wasn't through trial and error. In the end, it's straightforward. Monsters live to fight, farm experience, and evolve. Basically, every monster is programmed by instinct to seek power and become an increasingly fearsome fighting machine. Marielle tells it like it is, straight to the point, no beating around the bush. Even though that dragon saved Miriam, the next time they meet, the beast is going to eat the girl up, claws, teeth, and all. Miriam can't handle this information. She screams for her to stop and then gets all embarrassed, apologizing afterward. Marielle, who already knows how she is, just warns her, "Don't get your hopes up with monsters, girl. They're the very embodiment of trouble, and we don't get involved with them." She turns her back and walks away, leaving Miriam there deep in thought, but deep down she knows she'll cross paths with that dragon again. Meanwhile, our protagonist is super hyped. He's set on leveling up like crazy so he can get back on the path of good, become a hero, and reunite with Miriam. He starts looking for some easy monsters to farm, but out of nowhere his body freezes up. When he looks, he's all tied up by some threads. The genius walks straight into the territory of a giant spider. This wasn't exactly the kind of farming he wanted, but the spider doesn't care and spits even more web right in his face. The dragon uses his breath to neutralize it and, in a moment of pure desperation, sets his own body on fire to melt the threads. Obviously, he didn't plan this and ends up rolling on the ground in a panic, on fire. But look at that plot armor. The system notifies him that he has gained fire resistance. The dragon breathes a sigh of relief, right? He sees that the spider froze up and took a bit of damage. He takes advantage of the opening, jumps in with his claws, hits it with a paralyzing poison, and unleashes a combo sequence. But when he checks the creature's HP, it only lost half. He realizes the boss is way above his level and switches to strategic retreat mode. He starts rolling away, the spider comes after him, thirsty for blood, and he tries to fly. But his little chicken wings can't handle the weight of his body. He tries, falls, tries again, and falls again. The only way is to keep rolling like a bowling ball. After 10 minutes of endless chasing, the spider doesn't get tired. The system notifies him that his rolling skill leveled up to 3, and on top of that, he earns the title of Chicken Runner, the infamous cowardly fugitive. The protagonist feels humiliated, but as he says, "If I could win, I'd profit from it." He sees a cliff and thinks, "This is where I bite the dust." He tries to turn at the last second, considers flying to the other side, but his flying skill is less stable than bakery Wi-Fi. He jumps, going all in, and miraculously his wings work and he makes it across, leaving the spider behind. He lands on the other side exhausted, looks back to give that little victory laugh, and doesn't see the spider. "Ran away, huh, coward? When I level up, I'll get you," he shouts. He barely finishes speaking when the spider appears on a strand of web right in front of him. The system notifies that the rolling has leveled up to 4, But that doesn't help right now. In the desperation of his escape, he runs over everything, including a lion that was just chilling, and earns 12 XP. Because of the walking egg title, he jumps straight from level 1 to 3 and keeps running over everyone until he reaches level 8. Feeling the buff in his stats, he stops and decides to face the spider. He sees that it has double poison, and even without knowing what that is, he decides to charge up his baby breath to the max. The spider spits out the poison, the protagonist backs away, and even though he has resistance, his throat starts to burn. He realizes the spider is just waiting for him to drop dead, so he pulls off a masterful feint. He pretends to be sick so she'll come closer. When the spider jumps in to finish him off, he blasts her in the face with his breath and finishes with a downward strike. Level up. The guy jumps straight from level 8 to 14. He gets all excited, waiting for the human transformation, but the system just notifies him that his baby breath leveled up and that he got a dragon tail because of the last hit. No turning into a human. The protagonist gets really down, thinking he was tricked by the game, but figures maybe he needs some specific skill. Later that night, he goes back to where he ran over the lion, which is already done for, turned into steak, and finds a cave. He calls out, "Is anyone home?" No one answers, so he goes in. He starts eating the meat, but the taste is kind of bland. He remembers he picked up some fruit along the way, squeezes the juice on top, and that's it. It got rid of the gamey taste and gave it that spicy chef's touch. He even thinks about making the cave his secret base. While he's planning the decor, the system pops up, Master Chef acquired. The protagonist feels totally uncomfortable, sensing that his life is being broadcast live somewhere. Will our Dragon Master Chef be able to focus on his goal now, or will he end up opening a restaurant in the middle of the forest? Our Dragon Bro is just lying there in the cave, bored out of his mind, totally spacing out. He starts to imagine if he could become the popular guy in the village, like a master chef among the villagers, teaching them his exclusive recipes. But then he remembers what his current skin looks like. With this RPG villain look, his chances are zero. He gets really down, thinking that not even Miriam would recognize him like this. The protagonist gets pissed and starts cursing the system to the heavens. Come on, why promise a human transformation if you weren't going to deliver it now? He doesn't want to stay in forever alone mode for the rest of his life and demands his protagonist rights. Meanwhile, in the human village, Miriam is all ears, listening in on a conversation with an old man. The old man is swearing up and down that he saw two people at a lake near the village. He says with that boozy breath that he was just fishing peacefully when he saw two figures coming out of the woods. One of them looked totally worn out, like an extra from The Walking Dead, mumbling things and heading deeper into the forest. The people at the bar just laugh, saying it was the booze seeing things for him, but the old man insists that he was clean that day, not a drop of alcohol. Miriam is intrigued by this mystery, and the blonde guy from the village comes over trying to comfort her, saying that the deaths of the other adventurers weren't her fault. She just waves goodbye and leaves with that plan in her head. Miriam runs to Marielle and blurts out, "I'm going into the forest, I heard some rumors." The elf immediately gives a flat-out no. She tells it like it is. If the others were still alive, they would have come home a long time ago. Miriam tries to convince Marielle to form a party with the villagers for a rescue mission, but the elf shuts her down right away. "I'm not going to risk anyone else's neck here." So Marielle doesn't leave the girl hanging. She promises to call the guild members to officially investigate the case. Miriam pretends she accepted it, apologizes for being irrational, but Marielle senses trouble is coming. Back to our protagonist, he's fired up to level up. Out of nowhere, he comes across a monster that looks like an ice water potion. Really weird. He tries to use the C-Stat skill, but his vision glitches out completely, like his computer froze and his head starts exploding with pain. The system warns that level 3 of the skill can't handle the information from that creature, but instantly buffs him to level 4. For a few seconds, the protagonist manages to read the monster's stats and he's like, "What? What kind of craziness is this?" The protagonist is still totally lagged out, not understanding anything. And then that bizarre liquid starts moving toward him. Our dragon, still in scaredy cat mode, hides behind a tree. But then he remembers the stats he checked earlier and realizes the enemy's numbers weren't all that impressive. Even so, he'd rather not risk his hide and slips away down another path. As he moves forward across the map, he spots something that looks like a pot and thinks it might be some useful loot. He tries to pick it up, but the supposed pot jumps right at his face. Turns out it was actually a Portortuga, a D-rank pot turtle. Seeing that it's just a turtle mob, the dragon throws a basic dragon punch at it. but he barely takes off a single hit point, and the creature tries to counterattack with its tail, but ends up healing itself using the rest skill. Since the creature is camping inside its shell, the protagonist comes up with a brilliant idea: throw the turtle off a cliff. With that, he farms 36 experience points and, thanks to the Walking Egg title, earns some extra points, leveling up from 14 to 15. But the system trolls him and gives him the title of King of Meanness. Right at that moment, more turtles spawn, attracted by the scream of the first one. They group together to form a Megazord-like tower, but the dragon grabs the last one and uses it to hit all the others, unlocking the meteorite skill. He still manages to get 594 XP and more bonuses, jumping straight from level 15 to level 30. The flight skill also levels up to level 2 and the status analysis to level 5. With that, he realizes that taking out mobs in groups is much more profitable, but before leaving, he takes a turtle out of its shell to use the shell as a Tupperware to store food. Then it hits him that even after leveling up like crazy, he still hasn't unlocked the human transformation and he's only 2 levels away from evolving. Suddenly, he hears heavy footsteps coming from the forest. He gets closer and sees a bear, but there's something off about this creature, so he checks its status. He discovers it's a monster called Kleber, a D+ rank mob, a creature made of clumps of earth. The creature is strong and has an absurdly high health regeneration. The protagonist realizes that they are the same rank. Knowing this, he wonders if he has any skill to counter it. Besides that, he starts thinking about the creature's material because since it's made of clay, he could mold and fire it to make vases and pots for his base. With this plan in mind, we see him getting ready in stealth mode. He climbs onto a tree branch and, waiting for the perfect timing, launches himself into the attack. But the bear has pro player reflexes, reacts, and defends itself by molding its own body. Our protagonist complains, saying that thing is definitely not a normal bear. Out of nowhere, the bear rushes at him. Our protagonist dodges using a roll. He manages to deal some good damage, taking almost half of the creature's health bar. The dragon gets hyped, but out of nowhere, the bear lets out a regenerative roar. Seeing that the creature has infinite healing, the dragon is left not knowing what to do. Then he thinks about using the meteorite skill. However, he doubts he'll be able to lift the creature high enough. So the only way is to keep spamming rolls to deal continuous damage. That way, he keeps laying into it. But suddenly, the bear lets out a powerful roar that makes the entire forest tremble. Along with the roar, a sandstorm spawns and covers everything. When the dust settles, the boss reveals its second phase, a bear with a shell full of spikes. This totally discourages our protagonist. Who can guarantee he'll be able to use rolling now? While he was complaining, he realizes he's low on mana MP. In that moment of distraction, the bear launches one of its spikes. The protagonist dodges and notices something peculiar. He decides to test a mechanic. He rips off one of the bear's arms and confirms that the clay becomes soft when it's far from the main body. With that in mind, he forms a sphere and heats it to extremely high temperatures with the meteorite finishing off the bear. GG. Having defeated the bear, the system notifies him that he received 300 XP thanks to the Walking Egg title, and on top of that, he leveled up 3 times. This relieves our protagonist. Then the system notifies him that he has unlocked a new skill called Nutcracker. The protagonist feels a bit offended by the name the system gave, but motivates himself by thinking that he finally has clay for crafting. Back at the base, he leaves the clay baking and goes out to look for food. In the forest, he finds some rare mushrooms, but upon hearing that they're poisonous, he decides to throw them away. He also comes across a giant plant. He was about to analyze it, but the plant reacts and tries to attack. The little dragon doesn't back down and cuts it down instantly. The system warns that it's a rare plant that feeds on animals, but it can't digest salt, which accumulates in a discolored part. Since the dragon needs salt for cooking, he farms the item and takes it home. Here we cut to Miriam. While walking through the forest, she remembers what Maria said about letting the guild investigate. However, based on the testimony of someone named B who saw 2 figures walking, she decided to go look for the protagonist since she feels guilty. Right at that moment, another one of those worms appears, but she eliminates the creature with a fireball and continues on her way calmly. After that, we go back to the dragon who's analyzing a rank D mushroom monster. When they grow, they become aggressive mobs and their taste is like meat. The protagonist is already imagining the delicious stew he could make. Then he spots some even weirder mushrooms. These are extremely valuable, capable of bringing a country to glory or ruin. They have hallucinogenic effects and cause insane euphoria. 500 years ago, they used this as a stimulant, creating lots of addicts. But the protagonist wants nothing to do with drugs, so he burns everything. In exchange, he grabs some rank B peppers. They're so precious that they're worth their weight in gold. So he fills up his inventory. Meanwhile, Miriam reaches the hardest part of the forest, but fear gets to her and she decides to go around through the village. So we return to the dragon's house. He managed to get a glowing mushroom and we see him finally making the soup, giving it a 10 out of 10 for flavor after adding the salt. With the dish served, he digs in. He tastes the flavor of the meat blending with the soup. When he finishes, he feels as if he's regained his former life. At that moment, the system notifies him that his cook title has leveled up from 1 to 2. The dragon mentions that eating from that makeshift bowl was tough. He spilled a lot of broth. So he's going to use clay to craft a bigger pot and a spoon. On top of that, he'll make bricks for a wall, which earns him the title of Potter Ceramist. The next morning, we see a carriage. The coachman tells some ladies that the forest is near. When they get off, we see a human accompanied by a demi-human sent by a guild to Noah's forest. Back at the den, with the new food, the protagonist starts cutting the meat and skinning the wolves. Then he seasons everything and leaves it to dry. With the work done, he goes out for a walk all cheerful, saying that he's already gotten used to this isekai world. When he returns to the base, he sees that the monkeys are stealing his meat, and although he manages to scare the animals away, he thinks of a way to make these filthy beasts stop stealing his loot. So, we see him collecting poisonous mushrooms and mixing them with the meat. While collecting, he mentions that he's now practically an expert at distinguishing poisonous plants. At that moment, he feels the breeze carrying flower petals and arrives at a beautiful place, becoming amazed by the landscape's graphics. Suddenly, a small creature spawns in front of him. For a moment, our protagonist is mesmerized by the rarity of the animal. When he checks its stats, he discovers it's a species called Poison Princess Lacerta, whose skills are all poison-based. The little dragon is stunned, but the small beast flees the scene. Out of nowhere, a stake falls near our dragon. This catches his attention, and the creature takes advantage of the distraction. Our protagonist reacts by sending her flying far away. She hits the trunk of a tree and disappears, letting out a sinister laugh. The dragon thinks she gave up. However, out of nowhere, he feels the poison debuff taking effect in his body. His senses weaken and his vision starts to glitch, distorting everything as he falls to the ground, wondering if all of this was part of that creature's plan. Meanwhile, we see the monster up on a tree branch, just watching Drago with that sly smile of someone who knows exactly what they've done. The problem is, the poison that got our protagonist isn't just anything, no. This stuff is serious. It's such a special poison that not even the skill to see stats can give him any clues. Drago goes into a real panic, wondering what the hell he's going to do since he spent the whole day gathering materials and didn't find a single plant that could serve as an antidote. But then, the guy uses his brain. He decides to take a look at Lacerta's stats and discovers that the little creature is pretty sly. She poisons her prey and takes off, just waiting for the poison to do its job so she can come back later and feast on the leftovers. But there's a catch. She produces this poison by eating toxic things, but her body fluids actually work as an antidote. In fact, she even uses this to bargain for her own life when she's captured. Drago realizes there's no plan B. Either he catches this lizard or he's done for. Even though he's in bad shape and can barely move, he starts running to get out of her line of sight, forcing the sneaky thing to come after him. The plan works, and when he spots the creature, he goes after her, but realizes that the wretch also knows how to spin. He decides to take the chase toward the edge of the cliff, and along the way, his spinning skill levels up to 5, which fits perfectly. But she lands a hit and starts spitting clay while spinning. Drago is stunned. The creature shoots while drifting, but he wasn't about to let this witch come out on top. Near the cliff, he makes an incredible leap and comes crashing down, landing a direct hit on the lizard. Now all he had to do was get the antidote, right? Wrong. The little creature almost falls into the river, and Drago realizes that if she dies, he's going down with her. He jumps in to save the creature and uses his dragon breath to fly back and land safely. Lacerta is stunned that he saved her skin, and Drago, already at his limit, ends up fainting right then and there. Switching scenes, Miriam is still on her tireless search for Deuce, but today wasn't her day either. Out of nowhere, she hears Marielle calling and runs to meet her. Marielle immediately starts questioning her, wanting to know where she's been since she hasn't been able to find her at home and the girl has been missing for days. Miriam, the master of dodging, tells a little white lie, saying she had a cold and was bedridden and that she just now stepped out to get some fresh air. Marielle pretends to believe her, but immediately lays down the law, going to the woods is off limits. Miriam just nods in agreement, but we all know she's a first-class little liar. Marielle then says that the group of adventurers is arriving in the village to look for Deuce so she can relax. After that, the two of them go out to do a bit of shopping. Drago wakes up a bit confused, not knowing where he is when Lacerta appears in front of him. He thought she would have run off but realizes he's no longer poisoned. Seeing that she saved his life, he thanks her and there's a bit of a spark between them. After a battle of blood, sweat, and tears, it seems the two have become soulmates. Lacerta even hugs him, and Drago admits that, looking closely, she's actually kind of cute. Later, the two go to the cave and Drago prepares a special dinner. He serves her a plate, which she eats happily, and he sits there thinking how nice it is to have someone to share a meal with. Then he realizes that neither of them actually has a real name. He reflects that Princess Lacerta or Abyssal Chaos Dragon are just species names, not real names. Lacerta comes closer to him, but he decides to keep calling her Black Lizard anyway. She starts rubbing up against him, but suddenly spots a barrel of poison that Drago was preparing and sinks her teeth into it. Drago gets startled, but then remembers that she eats poison to get stronger. That jar of disgusting stuff is a luxury feast for her. He gets curious and decides to try a little bit, but ends up feeling sick right away, tasting the flavor of defeat. At least his poison resistance leveled up to 5. The next day, the duo starts hunting as a team and the job becomes way too easy. After work, they go eat some coconuts to relax and enjoy the day. At night, back in the cave, he wakes up with a start, remembering that the cute little thing has deadly poison, praying she doesn't bite him while he's sleeping. But deep down, he's much more comfortable now that he's not alone. The next day, they go out to gather materials and Lacerta tries to eat some spices, but she doesn't like them. But then she smells something wonderful in the air, and when they reach the source, the place reeks of something dead. The voice of God warns Drago, that's a B-rank Laios candidate, which gives off that corpse-like smell to lure in the unsuspecting. This mushroom has an extremely potent poison, but almost no animal eats it because of the disgusting smell it gives off. None except for our dear Lacerta, who is in ecstasy, mesmerized by the poison. But Drago has no intention of letting her stink up the place with that thing, so without wasting any time, he sets the mushroom on fire. Lacerta starts bawling and gives him a beating. Drago tries to tell her that he'll make it up to her later with another poisonous plant, one that doesn't stink up the place, but then Lacerta activates her clay pistol, making Drago realize that she is really pissed off. However, she fires toward the woods, and from there emerges a strange two-headed dog, creatively named Two Heads. But what's really concerning isn't the fact that it has 2 heads, but rather the creature's stats, which are just way too overpowered. On top of having broken abilities like Gravity and Gravidon, Drago starts to doubt whether he can tank this fight. Running away isn't an option, because Two Heads also has the abilities Tenacity and Marking, which sound like something that will track them down to hell. The best option is the classic tactic of playing as a team. Lacerta is going to hide and wait for the perfect moment, while Drago charges in to draw attention. But his attacks don't have much effect, and he's quickly affected by the monster's gravity. Now he's unable to move, but Lacerta uses the clay pistol and manages to hit the blue head, which disables the gravity. Drago takes advantage of the timing and attacks with his dragon breath. And even though it seems to have worked for the moment, it looks like all the damned monsters in this forest have the regeneration ability. Thanks to this, Drago understands the mechanic. The angry face attacks physically and the crying face uses magic. The latter gets ready to use Gravidon, but Drago has no intention of allowing it because that attack seems very dangerous. He quickly charges at her, but the other head stops him with a bite. Even so, he doesn't think about giving up and lands a punch on the crying head, interrupting the magic activation, and Lacerta takes the opportunity to inject her poison. The two-headed creature quickly uses recovery again, but the poison is so potent that regeneration is useless. The boys are already celebrating victory, but they didn't expect the angry head to tear off the crying head so that the poison wouldn't affect the whole body, which makes Drago think he doesn't want to choose an evolution that gives him 2 heads. Although now that it has 1 less head, it should be a bit easier, right? Easy, my foot, because now the monster is enraged and has used the sacrifice ability. We see the severed head starting to go after Lacerta. She rolls away for her life and Drago tries to help, but the creature's body holds him back. Furious, he charges at the dog, landing a brutal blow before throwing him into the sky. After catching the creature in midair, he uses the Nutcracker ability, completely crushing the dog and leveling up the Nutcracker ability to level 2. Without wasting any time, he quickly goes after Lacerta and prays that she is okay. They've only known each other for a few days, but they've done a lot together, and right now, she's the only friend he has in this world. He begs God that please, let Lacerta be safe. He no longer cares about the human transformation, he just hopes his friend is okay. But when he sees a pool of blood, he panics. Just then, Lacerda drags herself along, badly wounded, while we see the other head charging at her. Drago intervenes and, with unrestrained fury, completely destroys the remaining head. He then picks up Lacerda and is relieved to find that she is still alive. The little one, badly wounded, licks his face while the voice of God announces that he has reached level 37. Drago tells her to shut up, since the only thing that matters is that his friend is okay. And as long as he can stay with her, he doesn't care at all about the human transformation. But just as he finishes this sentence, that damned divine voice announces that she can now transform into a human. Drago is like, go to hell, are you serious? Meanwhile, on the other hand, in the village, Marielle has the old monster book, which she took from the library for Miriam to see. She takes a look, and the first monster she sees is an egg-eater. Since the book is written in old text, she can't read it, but Miriam comments that this is an F-rank creature, a monster that even she could defeat. But D-rank monsters are a different story, since you have to be a well-trained and capable adventurer to have any hope of defeating them. And we see her coming across a two-headed monster, a B-rank monster, one that only heroes and saints can defeat. At that moment, we see the adventurers from before finally arriving at the village, while Miriam asks Marielle what rank the Earth Dragon is. She reveals that, according to the book, it's a C-rank monster, but she heard that it can become stronger after evolving and could easily devour any human. For that reason, she tells her and everyone in the village not to enter the forest. Miriam understands, and just then, the adventurers from before enter the room. The scene starts off with that tense guild atmosphere. Melia's companion tells it like it is. Hey girl, why did we take on this C-rank job by ourselves? This setup is tough, we should have waited for the party to fill up with more members. Melia, always the solo player, replies that she performs better solo and that it's easier if she's the only one on the map. The demi-human already gets pissed and snaps back. Calm down. Do you think you're the Flash just because you're a dog girl, or are you trying to get knocked out first? Then Mel explains that the goal isn't to solo some impossible boss, but rather a game of hide-and-seek to find someone, so the risk of getting turned into mincemeat is low. At that point, they arrive at the house of the elf Mariel. The homeowner gives Miriam the slip and confesses she wants them to look for this guy, Daz. The guy has probably been gone for ages and is long gone, but she needs concrete proof, so Miriam will stop stalking the forest like a lunatic chasing a ghost. The plan is to find something that confirms his death. Otherwise, the search will go on forever and days of grinding in the woods will be inevitable. Meanwhile, our dragon protagonist is over there treating his lizard partner's wounds with some medicinal herbs. When she falls asleep, he goes to check his stats, totally hyped. He sees that he finally unlocked the human transformation. He steps away from the cave so he doesn't mess with anyone's head and starts daydreaming. It's not like I want to see Miriam in the village, of course not. He starts dreaming big, wondering if he'll turn into a K-drama heartthrob or a 10 out of 10 waifu who'll break the internet. He activates the skill, and what a disaster. The reflection shows a creature uglier than beating up an old person at Christmas. Worse than the young plague dragon. The protagonist demands an explanation from the admin, but the divine voice just says insufficient level and leaves him hanging. To make matters worse, his MP is draining like public Wi-Fi at a bus station, and he goes back to his scaly form, all sad and without the hype of turning into a handsome human. On the other side, the adventurers are clearing the map. At night, they find the protagonist's cave and see some ceramics of a dragon and a human. They think it's a fanatic sanctuary, but soon they catch a whiff of barbecue. The blonde goes to check it out and sees that the cave is basically a gamer's setup lit up with glowing fungi and full of red gold and rare fruits. The demi-human already wants to loot everything, but the knight stops her, thinking it's a bandit's hideout. Just then, the lizard shows up and the girls go into combat mode. The protagonist sees the scene and thinks, if I show up as a dragon, things will go south. So he has the brilliant idea to use his weird transformation to look like a strange little dog. He walks in all like, hey guys. But from the girl's perspective, he's a monster straight out of a horror movie. Result, the demi-human smacks him with a massive blow that sends the protagonist straight to the lobby. The night finishes with a burst of light and they run off to call for reinforcements from the village, leaving our hero feeling down and all alone. The next day, the protagonist wakes up in a foul mood. He decides to get revenge on the monkeys that steal his food and asks the lizard for some strong poison. He sets up the trap, a monkey writhes in pain from the meat, and the dragon shows up ready to throw punches. But the monkeys aren't noobs. They form up and call in the boss, a giant B+ rank orangutan. The beast has the same stats as the protagonist and even buffs the whole team. The fight escalates, the protagonist tries a fire breath, but the monkeys throw up an earth wall. The lizard tries to help, but gets thrown far away. The protagonist asks the system for information and finds out that the alpha is the master of evolution through battle. With no way out, the dragon resorts to telepathy to negotiate. He takes a monkey hostage and warns the alpha orangutan that the monkey is done for if he doesn't listen to the terms. The dragon tries to pull that diplomatic trick. Look, your lackey is going to be history because of the poison, but my partner has the antidote. If she cures him, you let us get out of here, deal? But the alpha orangutan is as tough as nails and tells it like it is. They're too big of a threat to be left roaming free on the map, and he's willing to sacrifice a soldier to take out the protagonist. The motto of the monkey clan is to eliminate the weak, and that's how he rose to the throne. The protagonist realizes that if all hell breaks loose, no one is getting out alive. So he goes all in. He challenges the alpha to a duel. The big gorilla is even surprised because in their world that's only for clan disputes, but he accepts. The dragon declares that he and the lizard are their own clan, and the alpha accepts the challenge. The lizard heals the poisoned monkey, but as soon as she's done, another primate captures her. The protagonist gets pissed, but the alpha explains it's just so she won't interfere. If the dragon wins, she's free. The fight begins and the gorilla is like a runaway truck, throwing blows that the protagonist can only defend against. With no opening, the dragon uses his spinning skill to gain some distance, but the alpha already throws some trash talk. Rolling around isn't fighting. The protagonist goes into serious mode, does a special event jump, and lands on top of the gorilla with a monumental tail strike, followed by a flurry of punches that leaves the alpha barely hanging on, with only a third of his health left. But the boss has entered the second phase. The alpha activates a bizarre state, repels the protagonist, and spends all his MP on agility. The guy turns into the Flash. The dragon tries a fire breath, but the gorilla dodges everything and slams the protagonist to the ground. The guy is so fast that the protagonist can't even see the hit. Then our dragon uses his head. He lets out a deafening roar and calls the alpha out for a fair fight, face to face, calling him a coward if he keeps running away. The gorilla, being proud, accepts the invitation for a close quarters fight. It's punch for punch, back and forth, until both of them are completely spent, out of breath. The grand finale comes with one last punch. The dragon lands the first hit and sends the alpha to the ground. I won, thought the protagonist. But the alpha, in his last moment of consciousness, throws a farewell punch that also knocks out the dragon. Both of them go down for a deep sleep at the same time. The protagonist blacks out, seeing the lizard approach and hearing the system's voice narrating his achievements. Game over. When he wakes up, he's already back in the cave, accompanied by our beloved black lizard. Still a bit dazed, he starts to remember what happened during that insane fight against the boss. He immediately opens the status menu and boom, he leveled up. He looks at the lizard and asks if they won. She confirms it with great excitement, and the two celebrate with that hug of people who survived the worst. But then comes the question, how did she manage to drag him back to the cave? The lizard doesn't even answer, just turns her head and points in a direction. Feel the drama. Out of nowhere, they see 4 monkeys throwing a huge party. Completely confused, the dragon wonders what those guys are doing there. That basic panic hits, thinking the animals came to avenge their boss who just got taken out. But no, the monkeys keep partying hard, and soon he figures out what's really going on. They're considering him the new boss of the place. To be sure, he checks his stats and bingo, he really did take the throne. The gecko, on the other hand, is already on the defensive, ready for a fight. The dragon tries to calm things down, explaining that now the monkeys are their followers. But look, the gecko didn't like that idea one bit. After a while, they head out and come across a real feast of fruit that the monkeys collected. The dragon is amazed by their efficiency, but the gecko remains super reluctant even when our protagonist praises the newcomers, saying they're incredible. Then the monkeys point to the meat that was stored away. The dragon, totally chill, gives them permission to eat, which makes the gecko even more pissed off. Seeing everyone devour the stockpile, the dragon already realizes he'll have to farm more food to replenish the reserves. Off he goes to prepare the meat, but he notices that there's a monkey paying close attention to the process. Our protagonist asks if he's curious and offers to teach him how it's done. He guides the little guy step by step through the preparation. The monkey doesn't take his eyes off for a second, and when the dragon finishes, he hands it over for the monkey to try on his own. And look at that! The monkey gets super hyped, really motivated, while the dragon stands there, all proud of his pupil. But suddenly, that chill runs down their spine. A terrifying presence fills the air. It was the black lizard foaming with jealousy. The dragon, as perceptive as a door, doesn't understand what's going on, and decides to let it go, focusing on the fact that now there's a bunch of people sharing a roof with him. He figures they'll need to hunt more and make more pots to store supplies. Cut to a scene of him needing clay to make those pots. The monkey asks if he can try too. The dragon thinks quickly. These guys have dexterity skills, long and slender fingers. They're definitely going to crush it at pottery. He teaches the basics and is amazed by the result, so much so that he puts the monkey in charge of production and goes to take a break. But then he catches the lizard trying to mess with the clay. The dragon, with zero social skills, blurts out that with her little hands there's no way she can do that. Result? The poor thing leaves crying. Yeah, my friends, the dragon is a first-class fool. Later, he hands a shovel and a hammer to the monkeys so they can work on expanding the cave, but at that moment the lizard comes back around. Meanwhile, at a little bar, those adventurers are chatting. They say they sent a message to Dazi and Romena, other adventurers, asking for help with the mission. For the demi-humans, it's still surreal that they ran into a plague dragon. Elia had already thought that cave was kind of suspicious from the start, so they decide they need to keep investigating. The next morning, the lizard pokes the protagonist to tell him something. The dragon even tries to get up, but the monkeys are all clinging to him like ticks. No matter how much noise he makes, nobody wakes up at all. So he gives up and decides to go back to sleep. But that's when things get ugly. He hears the monkeys screaming. Guess what? The lizard just poisoned one of them just to make everyone jump out of bed. The worst part is that she raises her little finger, all proud, thinking she did a really good deed. The dragon panics and rushes her to give the poor guy the antidote right away. With the problem solved, the lizard finally reveals the reason for the chaotic wake-up call. The new pots are empty, so she called him to go hunting. To try to cheer her up, the dragon invites her to go out together on this trip. Meanwhile, Miriam mentions that it's been a few days since the adventurers arrived and went into the forest, but she hasn't heard anything from them since. Worried, the girl decides to go after them on her own. Back to the dragon, he mentions that he's just one level away from evolving. So now the focus is on farming a lot of experience and getting more resources for the cave. He turns to his friend and asks if she isn't finding all of this fun, but the lizard just stays there, silent and downcast. The protagonist tries to figure out what the problem is. She points at the monkeys, kind of indicating that they're the ones having fun, which makes the dragon think that their attack power must have increased because of the tools. Before moving on, he asks the lizard to let him know as soon as she detects any prey. She just ignores the guy and keeps walking. The dragon is left wondering if he messed up again. That's when he notices the lizard looking around attentively in all directions. He approaches, asking what she found, and she points to a bush from which two wolves jump out. The protagonist already thinks it's a good time to warm up and tells her to get ready, but the monkeys dash ahead and take down the wolves with a combo together. The dragon is left speechless by this. He asks the lizard if she didn't think that was amazing, but she, dead jealous, just turns her back and walks away in silence. At the same time, Miria had already ventured too deep into the forest. When she was about to give up and turn back, she spotted two figures walking among the trees. Without wasting any time, she sprints to try to catch up with them. But as she moves forward, she loses sight of the two. Feel the tension. Several eyes start to appear in the darkness, and Miria freezes in fear on the spot. Back to our protagonists, the main character apologizes to the lizard for not giving her the usual attention. He tries to justify himself by saying that now he's a leader and needs to take care of the group. Seeing that she stopped to listen, he promises that next time they go hunting, it'll be just the two of them. And that brings the little creature's joy back, and she ends up forgiving him. In the middle of this reconciliation, the dragon comes clean. She is the most important thing in his life right now, and no matter what happens in the future, that will never change. However, the mood is instantly broken by Miria's scream. The dragon jumps up, knocking the lizard to the ground, already realizing that the girl is in danger. He thinks about going straight there, but remembering what happened the last time he ran into humans, he decides not to take the risk. He asks the lizard to wait there quietly. Without further ado, he uses his rolling ability to get there faster, but the stubborn lizard follows right behind. Seeing that she didn't listen, he speeds up. She tries to keep up but ends up running face first into a rock. The dragon stops to check if she's okay, and after confirming that her health is fine, asks her to wait. Just as he's about to leave, the lizard grabs him by the tail. The protagonist apologizes, leaves her behind, and tells her that he wasn't lying when he said she was the most important thing to him. While the friend is feeling sad, the voice announces that the diminutive hero has leveled up from 2 to 3 and the villain has gone from 3 to 4. Up ahead, Miria is surrounded by 4 wolves. One of them lunges at her, but something hits the beast from afar. Our dragon has just arrived. He realizes that Miria doesn't recognize him, but right now, that doesn't matter. The wolves are called Mahu wolves and are ranked D-. With their third eye, they can share their vision with the pack. This ability allows them to cooperate while hunting. The dragon tries to check their status, but the voice says his level is too low. Although he does notice a very strange condition in the wolves, and remembers having seen something similar before. The wolves charge at him, and the dragon uses his baby breath, burning 2 of them instantly. The other 2 try their luck, but he hits both of them squarely. Miria watches everything from afar, terrified of this imposing dragon. That's when he realizes he has spread his wings and quickly folds them back to avoid releasing the poison. He sees that Miria's health is still fine and figures it's because her skill level is low. He tries to get closer, but she backs away, asking him to stay away. The dragon gets really sad because she's treating him like a monster. He tries to explain who he is, but right at that moment, the system's voice adds up the experience with the walking egg points. Reaching level 40, the dragon throws a real tantrum to get the voice to shut up. And that's exactly what makes Miria see him as he was when he was little. Here, the dragon hears Miria say something and notices that she starts making some gestures. He realizes that she's trying to imitate what he did when they first met. He goes along with it, does the same, and together they start babbling. But then more wolves start to appear. The protagonist throws himself in front and asks for trust. Miria climbs onto his back and the 2 of them take off running. Meanwhile, Gregory tells Meriel that he searched the whole village for Miriam, but the girl simply vanished without a trace. Meriel quickly realizes that the little one went into the woods. Gregory even offers to go after her, but Meriel takes the lead, says she'll go herself, and asks him to check the village one more time just to be sure. He follows her instructions to the letter. On the other side, Mel had gathered her team and says that before rushing into the woods, they need to have a word with the client to approve the group's reorganization. As for Drago, poor guy, he's still running for his life, or rather, for that clueless girl's life. The problem is, the more they run, the more wolves show up on their tail. Drago decides it's time to put an end to this. He puts some distance between them, asks Miria to wait a moment, and charges ahead. With his flamethrower, he takes out 3 wolves in an instant, then uses his blades to finish off the last one. It was almost too easy, and he gets suspicious, wondering why the creatures attacked if they didn't stand a chance. There's a mysterious vibe in the air, but he doesn't dwell on it and takes off with Miriam. But pay attention to this detail. From the third eye of one of the defeated wolves, a really bizarre slime starts to ooze out. As they walk, Drago is caught in a tough dilemma. Should he take her back to the village? The problem is the risk of getting the same warm and hostile welcome as last time. Remembering that ordeal makes him tense and at the same time frustrated. After all, why did Miria decide to go alone into such a dangerous forest? It would be so easy to just ask, but the darn language barrier keeps them from having a conversation. In the middle of this frustration, Miria gives him a tight hug. He immediately imagines it's her way of saying thank you very much. A cute moment, right? But guess who shows up to ruin the mood? The divine voice of the system, asking if he wants to see the evolution options. Drago grumbles a bit about having his moment interrupted, but agrees to take a look. And look, he has 4 paths. The first is the rolling dragon, focused on speed, but spending the whole day rolling around doesn't sound very cool. The second option is the human dragon dart, a low-level dragon man, almost a demi-human. But after the recent disappointments he's had with these transformations, he feels like this is the biggest troll yet. But the third option really catches his eye. The Arc Dragon is a light attribute dragon, super intelligent, and even uses white magic. For Drago, it seems like the dream choice. But then he looks at the fourth option, Jormungand, a dragon that looks like a giant snake with poisonous scales that destroy everything and leave the ground barren forever. No way, he immediately rules that one out. After all, he doesn't want to become humanity's villain. He stands there racking his brain about how to get stronger until Miriam pulls him out of his thoughts by pointing to a waterfall. When they get to the water, Drago is absolutely certain that Jormungand is out of the question, but he's still unsure if it's worth taking a chance on the human dragon. The best option really seems to be the dragon arc, since white magic would be a huge help in trying to befriend humans. While he's there burning brain cells over which evolution to choose, Miriam goes to get a drink of water. Noticing that her scaly buddy is a bit stressed, she sneaks up on him. Drago even tries to explain to her that he's looking for a way to have a chill social life in both worlds, and what's better for making friends than brewing some artisanal dragon beer. He tries to tell her that he's about to evolve and asks for her opinion, but as expected, she doesn't understand a single word he's saying. He keeps wondering how on earth he's going to manage to communicate. And just between us, right? The guy has sharp claws, can even make a ceramic vase from scratch, but can't manage to draw a simple picture on the ground to explain himself? Anyway, that's the famous anime logic. But look at that, Miriam starts trying to communicate using gestures and simpler sounds, and wouldn't you know it, it actually works. Drago finally manages to hear her say her own name. Little by little, she starts pointing at things and saying their names, and the magic happens. He starts to understand, and do you know why? His language skill finally leveled up to level 3. The day goes by peacefully, and in the late afternoon she tells him that she's been exploring the forest for a few days now, all without Muriel knowing. At that, Drago tries to warn her that a few days ago he saw 2 humans snooping around his cave. The problem is that even though he understands what she says, Miriam still can't make any sense of his grunts. The solution? Resort to good old-fashioned charades. And believe it or not, Miriam manages to understand and tells him that those are adventurers. Don't ask me how she deciphered those crazy hand gestures, because it was truly a miracle of interpretation. But then the mood gets a bit heavier. Miriam reveals that, actually, she's in the woods looking for someone named Dos. Feel the drama. At that moment, it dawns on Drago and he remembers with a heavy conscience. That's exactly the guy who ended up biting the dust after running into the little stone dragon. At that, our buddy puts some herbs on his head like a wig, and Miriam gets super hyped when she realizes he knows Dos, thinking he was the one who saved her. The girl gives him an enthusiastic hug, and our poor protagonist just apologizes in his mind, but it looks like he's going to end up following the path of the demi-human. That's when Miriam asks his name, which leaves Drago totally flustered because he has no idea what to say. He makes her understand that he doesn't have a name, and Miriam starts thinking about what to call the creature until she asks if she can make one up herself. Seeing this, Drago gets all emotional that she's the one choosing and nods his head desperately, saying yes. Miriam remembers everything they've been through together, says that he's her hero, and drops the bomb. How about Illusia? It's the name of her favorite flower. Just feel the drama of the situation. The guy is a calamity dragon and you're going to name him Illusia. He's literally going to become the joke of the dragon server. Even the divine voice of the system asks if he's sure, warning that there's no turning back. Dude, even the system agrees with me. But since Drago is totally smitten with the girl, he confirms it. Done, registered as Illusia. For him, everything is wonderful. But pay attention, because the cute moment is suddenly interrupted by some really heavy footsteps. Drago does the math quickly and knows that the only boss capable of making that noise is the stone dragon. Without thinking twice, he grabs Miriam and gets out of there, but right away a magic wolf latches onto them. When he scans the creature's stats, Drago notices the magic reception status. In other words, the wolf is being controlled like a puppet. And right in front of them, another whole pack spawns with the alpha in the middle, and guess who's riding it? Dos. And yes, he's also being controlled. Drago checks his stats and is shocked to see that he doesn't have any skills, wondering what the heck is going on. Before he can process it, Dos gets ready to attack. Miriam yells at him to react, but Dos's partner comes at them full force. Drago steps in front to tank the blow. Dos tries to hit him, but Miriam casts a fireball, and after a nice counter-attack from Drago, Dos falls off his mount. But the guy desperately grabs onto a mysterious vase and, without wasting a second, orders the other wolves to attack. Suddenly, those heavy footsteps start echoing again. Drago curses his own luck, while Miriam realizes that the noise is getting closer and understands that the stone dragon has already arrived. Even so, Dos gets back on the wolf and rushes straight toward the village. Drago thinks he's doing it out of pure spite, but that's when Miriam drops the real bombshell. What Dos is carrying in that vase is a stone dragon egg. If he takes that to the village, he'll send everyone straight to the lobby. Right at that moment, the gigantic dragon emerges from the forest. Drago grabs Miriam and they dash off to try to stop Dos, but the wolves aren't going to let it slide. As they run at full speed, Drago wonders what kind of mess Dos has gotten himself into, why he wants to lure the dragon to the village, and the strangest thing of all, how is he able to ride monsters now? But reality hits. If he keeps carrying Miriam, they'll never shake off the wolves. She knows this too and asks him to put her down so she can distract the beasts. Drag is fully aware that she wouldn't survive a single hit, but Miriam insists so much that, in the end, he stops. Dragu takes the attack head-on, turns around, sends one of the wolves flying, and delivers a god-level meteor suplex. Then he goes after the rest of the pack that was chasing Miriam. In the middle of all this chaos, the girl ends up getting hurt. And let's be honest, she kind of brought this on herself by being careless, right? She begs him to go to the village and save everyone. Seeing her condition, Dragu promises that he'll protect the people, but that he'll also protect her. Meanwhile, back in the village, Gregory is telling the kids to go home because night is already falling. Not even a minute goes by and you can already hear the terrifying roar of the stone dragon. Mariel also hears it from afar, but since she's deep in the woods racing against time to find Miriam, she thinks it's something else and ignores it. Meanwhile, Melkia and her team keep farming and fighting in the woods. And to top it all off, while Drago and Miriam are running for their lives toward the village, the big plot twist is revealed. What's controlling Dos is none other than that mysterious slime, simply using the poor guy as bait to lure the stone dragon to the village and wipe the place off the map for good. We continue on the path to the village. Drago breathes a sigh of relief when he sees that Miri is okay since she used magic to heal his wounds. Our companion here thinks Miriam is a real ray of sunshine and picks up the pace to get to the village faster. Meanwhile, the protective stones failed and the beast started invading the place. But Gregory isn't messing around, and with a bit of luck and that little nudge from the plot, he manages to take down the beast. But as he's backing away, he runs right into Drago. The guy totally panics, but he also doesn't want to let the dragon in. That's when Miriam steps in and tells Gregory that even though Drago is a calamity dragon, he's actually there to help. Looking closer, Gregory realizes it's the same dragon from before. And Drago also recognizes the guy who tried to stab him. Miriam explains that he's a good dragon and that he was the one who saved her last time. Gregory is shocked, can't believe it, and apologizes to Drago for having tried to turn him into a kebab. After all, to be honest, anyone in his situation would have attacked too. Our little humanoid dragon gets emotional seeing how understanding Gregory is. He's surprised to hear Drago respond, and Miriam explains that he understands the human language perfectly. But right at that moment, they're interrupted by the roar of the rock dragon. Without wasting any time, Miriam asks if he saw Dos, and Drago replies that that jerk threw the wolf at him before running off. Miriam panics and warns that Dos is leading the rock dragon straight to the village, using the egg as bait. There's no time to lose, they need to go now. However, Gregory stops everyone, because if their dragon friend arrives at the village like that, he'll only cause panic. Drago invites Gregory to climb onto his back and even gives him a wink, never missing a chance to be charming. This creature doesn't have a shred of shame. Meanwhile, Dos finally arrives at the center of the village and everyone gets excited to see that he's alive. Shortly after, Drago shows up and, as expected, causes quite a commotion. But when the villagers see that Miriam and Gregory are riding on his back, things calm down a bit. They ask if anyone has seen Dos, and the villagers reply that he went toward the watchtower. The rock dragon is getting closer and closer, so Gregory asks Miriam to stay there and help the villagers while he goes with Drago after Dos. Miriam tries to refuse, but Gregory makes her see reason. She's injured, and in this state she'd only get in the way. The best thing she can do is help with the evacuation. Drago immediately agrees. After all, the last thing he wants is to put his beloved Miriam in danger. She ends up agreeing, and without wasting any time, Gregory climbs onto Drago. He comments that he never imagined that little dragon would evolve into a calamity dragon, but he understands that monsters need to evolve to become strong. After all this chaos is over, he plans to introduce Drago to the people in the village, since he's sure they'll get along well. Drago gets super excited at finally being able to be accepted. And look, I'm happy for him, but it also makes me mad, because he's forgetting about our dear Lacerta in this whole story. On the other side, Dos takes out a villager and his livestock, spreading terror among the people who have no idea what's going on. Gregory arrives at that moment and asks the villagers to calm down, explaining that the dragon is an ally. Now, the priority is for everyone to get out of there and save themselves, while he deals with the problem with Dos. And they have to be quick because the rock dragon is already on their tail. The villagers run away, but there's always someone curious to watch the chaos, right? Dos disarms Gregory and goes after Drago. But Drago isn't fazed at all and puts him to sleep in no time. The problem is that when it comes time to send him to the afterlife, Drago feels that if he does it, he'll become a real monster, so he prefers to just give him a dragon punch to knock the guy out. Seeing this, Gregory has no more doubts that the dragon is an ally. The thing is, since he didn't finish off Dos, Dos gets back up. Drago tries to analyze his condition and confirms that Dos is suffering from the same alteration as the Marha wolf. Seeing the boy nearby, Dos takes him hostage. And honestly, serves him right, because if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. Guys, as much as gossip is fun, you can't risk your life like that. You have to be like me and use your phone to keep up with the danger from a distance without exposing yourself. The group is left not knowing what to do. If they try anything, Dos will finish off the boy. If they do nothing, the rock dragon will destroy the entire village. Right at the critical moment, Dos drops the sword and grabs the egg again, leaving everyone stunned when a bizarre slime bursts out from inside and carries the thing to the top of the tower. To make matters worse, the rock dragon shows up in full force. Dos tries to break the egg, but Drago gets in the way. The problem is that the wretched Dos throws the kid far away, forcing Drago to swerve to save the child. In the end, the possessed Dos gets what he wanted. He breaks the egg and awakens an immense fury in the rock dragon, making everything shake. Miriel, on the other hand, hears a noise and wonders what the heck is going on. When she arrives at the village, she runs into Miriam, who explains everything. To be honest, I thought Miriel was going to be a key character, but so far she's just playing the role of a useless babysitter. Back to Drago, he manages to save the little one. But when he looks around, he bitterly regrets not having finished off Dos earlier. If he had done that, none of this would be happening. Gregory joins him. Drago is relieved to see the guy is alive and asks him to take the boy far away because he's going to stay behind to hold the fort. Gregory understands and tells the dragon not to kick the bucket before he sails off with the kid. Meanwhile, Drago decides to fight with everything he's got because now there's a lot at stake and he wants to protect the place. By analyzing the state of the rock dragon, you can see that his rage made his stats shoot through the roof. Drago doesn't know if he stands a chance, but at the very least he needs to buy some time. He goes all in with everything he's got, but unfortunately, the flamethrower doesn't even tickle. The dragon strike doesn't even scratch him, and the meteor fist looks like it didn't even touch. Then, with a single blow from the boss, he's already down. Drago realizes that this is the strongest enemy he's ever faced. And when the rock dragon prepares the finishing blow, the cavalry arrives to lend a hand. The soldiers' attacks don't even tickle, but they serve to distract the beast, which gives Drago an opening to attack. But even combining their strength, the damage is insignificant. The rock dragon unleashes an earthquake that takes out Luca and leaves Gregory in bad shape. At that moment, Drago starts hearing a voice in his mind telling him to get out. The divine voice levels up to 4 and activates a simulation via Laplace. Drago keeps hearing the deity say that he has never run away before, acknowledging that he is a rare case, but unfortunately, their paths end here. The voice asks him to rest in peace, saying it enjoyed watching his journey. Frustrated and irritated at being treated as someone inferior, Drago asks what kind of entity it is, but the voice says it doesn't have permission to explain. The deity somehow leaves him hanging, but Drago still doesn't want to throw in the towel. He has one last trick up his sleeve. He wanted to avoid using it, because if he completely changes form, Miriam and Lacerta might not even recognize him. He has 4 options, but he's lost about which one to choose. The Dragon Bow uses white magic, but it's not good for attacking. The Rolling Dragon doesn't seem very efficient. There's Jormungand, which would be a better option, but the poison is just too dangerous. And the Human Draco? Well, I feel like that's the worst choice of all. While he's pondering the best way out, he feels his mana draining away. The divine voice informs him that he has earned the title of Laplace's right to interfere, and now he starts to see the probabilities with each evolution. Jormungand results in a technical tie, but there's a 94% chance it'll wipe out the entire village along with it. The Rolling Dragon is useless, it would only be good for running away. And the Arc Dragon isn't the right choice either. Drago, completely frustrated, wonders what the hell the deity is trying to show with these predictions and starts cursing at the celestial being, while Gregory, right beside him, can only watch as the end approaches. Meanwhile, Miriel asks Miriam if they've managed to evacuate everyone yet. Miriam replies that there are still many people left. Miriel understands the situation and asks her to keep healing the wounded while she herself heads to the village. But Miriel refuses to stay behind. She has already finished healing everyone who was there and says she's coming along too, because there might be more injured people in the square. Miriel can't argue against that, so she accepts the company. Back to Drago, the poor guy is in a state of total despair, trying to figure out what the hell he's supposed to do now. The priority is to save Gregory, and in his mind, the best option is to evolve into a dragon archer to gain access to healing magic. But before he even tries to evolve, the divine voice appears with that same clinical coldness as always and reminds him that he has a 4% chance of victory and a 1% chance of saving the wounded. Drago tells her to shut up. Without hesitation, he charges at the stone dragon, clashes head-on with the monster, and then dives toward Gregory. When he gets close, he realizes Gregory's condition is extremely serious. Gregory is at his limit, but even so, he manages to grab Drago's hand and asks him not to worry about him. And then he asks a heartbreaking question. Why is Drago, a calamity dragon, fighting for the humans? He says he can't understand it, but his intuition tells him one thing clearly. Drago isn't fighting with his true power. And then he makes a shocking request. He asks Drago to devour him. Drago is taken aback. Gregory explains that he is a calamity dragon and that these beings become stronger by feeding on people. That's why he should devour him and with that power destroy the enemy. Drago immediately refuses. That's not how he gets stronger. He has his own evolutions for that. But then he stops, looks at the list of evolutions and realizes that the Calamity Dragon isn't available. Why doesn't this evolution appear? Gregory observes and starts to speak with difficulty. He remembers that Drago had already saved Miriam, and when he brought her to the village, what he received were attacks. And even so, there he was, fighting for everyone. Gregory says that now he understands. Maybe that's exactly the reason why Drago can't win. He's a calamity dragon who acts like a hero, and that's what holds back his power. And with Drago's claw already touching his neck, Gregory asks one last time, "Please devour me, save the village." On the other side, Tamos Brook watches everything and can't understand what's happening to Gregory. Drago has no way out anymore. With no choice, his eyes full of tears, he rips off Gregory's head. The divine voice immediately announces, "The day of evil has gone from level 4 to level 5. The calamity level has risen from 1 to 3. The title of King of Veilness has reached level 2. And with that, the evolution of the Calamity Dragon was unlocked." The divine voice describes what this being is. An evil dragon that sows chaos and destruction, that destroys everything around it, and is among the 3 greatest calamities in the entire world. Power close to rank B, Drago chooses this evolution. His body begins to transform. Tamos Brook sees this and runs away desperately. And after a roar that seems to make the ground shake, Drago makes a vow in memory of Gregory. He won't worry, because Drago will protect that village no matter what it takes. The 2 dragons face each other and then charge at one another at full speed. At the collision, Drago realizes that this damn monster is still way too heavy, but he doesn't intend to win by brute force. He starts to fly, tries to use his altitude to reach the enemy's neck and try to break it. But the stone dragon keeps resisting in an unbelievable way. Drago changes his strategy, puts some distance between them, and prepares to crush the enemy with everything he's got. He's going to try a different approach. Meanwhile, Miriam and Muriel arrive at the village and are desperately searching for the boys, when suddenly they find Brook. The girls ask what happened. Brook collapses dramatically to the ground and then leads them to where Gregory's body is. He tells them everything. It was the black dragon who did this and then transformed into something he can't even describe. Miriam says that Drago would never do such a thing. Brook replies that he saw it with his own eyes. The black dragon decapitated him. Muriel asks if the dragon evolved, and Brook doesn't know how to answer. He only knows they're fighting over in the east. Miriam keeps denying it, and Muriel asks her to calm down because there are other priorities now. Miriam goes to take care of the wounded, and her heart must be incredibly heavy with all of this. Back on the battlefield, Drago complains because that damn stone dragon won't stop attacking, but he's able to dodge and counter with gusts of wind. And this attack is surprisingly effective. Drago gets excited and realizes he also has the neck-breaking hook skill available. The problem, he doesn't know how to use it. The stone dragon charges at him again, but Drago dodges quickly and looks at the enemy's health points. He can't understand how this creature is still standing. He wonders if it has any weak spots. The divine voice, being the divine voice, says it can't give him that information. Drago thinks to himself, a monster this tough probably has a weak spot on its head, obviously, and he starts attacking the head repeatedly. Draconic tail, dragon punch, and a final heavy blow straight to the head. Result, the stone dragon is blinded. Drago thinks the fight will be easier now, but the blind dragon starts moving around desperately. And guess where it's headed? Straight toward the village. Drago runs to intercept, throwing himself in front of the monster. Meanwhile, Mariel finishes healing the wounded and goes to talk to Miriam, but she's gone. That girl disappeared again. Marielle panics. Back on the battlefield, Drago is stuck holding the dragon, which makes any effective attack impossible. With his desperation mounting, he starts hitting frantically and, without meaning to, activates the poisonous powder from his body, and this powder is devastating against the stone dragon. With the enemy weakened and intoxicated, Prota examines the monster's neck. It's way too thin compared to the body. That's the weak spot. He goes all in, simultaneous attacks on the neck while the poison takes effect. And then finally the neck hook skill activates on its own and the stone dragon is destroyed. The poisonous particles still linger in the air across the battlefield. The divine voice announces that, thanks to the Rolling Egg title, Prota receives double experience and jumps from level 1 straight to level 19 in a single hunt. Exhausted, he collapses to the ground to rest, but he doesn't even last a minute before Miriam appears right in front of him. She asks seriously, "Are you Prota?" Drago is surprised. How did she know? Miriam replies that it's pretty easy to notice when a calamity dragon evolves into another calamity dragon. She comments that he got gigantic and Drago confirms he evolved after killing Gregory. Then Mariel shows up and starts attacking Prota mercilessly. Miriam tells her to stop. She explains that he is Elucia, the Drago she mentioned before, and even though he's much bigger now, he's still the same person. Mariel doesn't let her guard down and reminds everyone that he was the one who killed Gregory. Miriam turns to Drago and asks directly, "Is that true?" Silence. Mariel tells Miriam to step back, but she doesn't move. She says there must be some mistake, that her Drago would never do something like that. And Drago, upon hearing this, is genuinely surprised. She still trusts him. But then the wind starts to blow and the poisonous particles begin to spread through the air again. Drago realizes what's happening and acts quickly. He pushes Miriam away and flies off. Mariel purifies the poison, while Miriam can't even process what just happened. Drago leaves, understanding that it's what's best for her, but as he flies, he unintentionally poisons everything around him. When he reaches a lake and sees his reflection in the water, he stops. He stares at himself, a figure he barely recognizes. His body feels heavy. And then he sees a flower. He comments that he had never really paid attention to flowers until that moment. He uses the scan and the name appears, Elucia. The divine voice explains, a flower with red and white petals that only grows in lands inhabited by monsters. Hard to find, highly valued as a gift. And in the symbolism of flowers, its meaning is courage, bravery, and heroism. Drago cries. He remembers when Miriam gave him that name and, desperate, begs the divine voice to erase the name. He can't stay by her side anymore, and that name is only making him suffer more. But the divine voice replies that once set, the name cannot be changed. Drago collapses to the ground and quietly asks, what the hell is he doing in this world? Meanwhile, the guild members finally show up in the village after Drago had already taken care of the whole mess. The adventurers arrive demanding explanations from Marielle about why there's a knocked-out stone dragon in the middle of the place. She explains that the creature went head-to-head with the Calamity Dragon, and after beating up the big guy, it just took off flying into the forest. When they ask about the villagers, Marielle says that most of them are safe and sound, but there are still some people missing. The adventurers decide to search the area, and Miriam goes along to help out, since they have no idea how to read the village map. But before they head out, Marielle gives them that warning of someone who already knows exactly what needs to be done. Meanwhile, when the dust settles, our beloved Princess Lacerta shows up once again. Drago gets really emotional when he sees that she still remembers him and immediately apologizes for having left her behind. In a truly touching moment, she forgives our hero, but unfortunately reality comes knocking. Drago can't just hang out with her, let alone go back to the village. Everyone there will definitely see him as that so-called Calamity Dragon who sent Gregory to the lobby. He realizes he needs to get out of the forest since his poisonous dust could end up giving Lacerta or the orangutans a dangerous debuff. And the last thing he wants is to hurt anyone. But before saying goodbye, he makes up his mind that he needs to find out what the hell put DOS in that state to make sure the people in the village can have peace. Our Drago doesn't give up easily, that's for sure. He quickly takes off heading toward his cave. Even though it's kind of hard for him to fit through the door now, Lacerta hitches a ride on his back, but out of nowhere he gets a chill. His presence radar goes off, and looking down at the forest from above, guess who he spots? That damn slime. He tries to scan the creature's stats again, but since his skill is still stuck at level 5, the data comes through all scrambled. Feel the struggle. Drago digs into his memory and remembers it was exactly the same thing when he tried to analyze that slime's status before, and the same thing happened when he examined DOS. He starts to wonder if it's just a bizarre coincidence to run into this monster again, right when the creature is heading toward the village. Without thinking twice, he starts following the slime to get more information. Even with the scan at a low level, he notices that the damn slime is packed with abilities. Third Eye, Regeneration, High Level, Absurd Mana, Emission and Reception of Magical Waves, Infernal Scissors, Lethal Stinger. Drago is racking his brain, unable to understand what a slime is doing with spider abilities. It doesn't add up, and the tension only increases when he notices that the creature also has human abilities, like swordsmanship talent. That's when it hits him. He remembers that when he examined those, the guy's body had 0 skills, which was pretty bizarre considering he could control the wolves. The conclusion is terrifying. This thing can steal its target's abilities and turn everyone into puppets. Realizing that all the misfortune that befell the village was this slime's fault, Drago decides there's no way he's going to let a boss of this level roam the map freely. He swoops toward the slime and immediately calls out to Lacerta. That's the final enemy, so if things get rough, she's to get out of there right away. They go all in, but the creature throws up a smokescreen to hide itself. Drago tries to provoke the enemy to make it come out of cover, when suddenly 2 small humans appear in the area, confused, asking what's going on. Drago can't figure out where they came from until, bang, a knife attack comes out of absolutely nowhere. That's when he realizes the trick. It was the slime in disguise. The slime gets all frustrated because it thought the attack would be a one-hit kill and returns to its original form. The monster even says it remembers the young calamity dragon it met at the lake, but the conversation is cut short when a bizarre eye opens on the slime's chest, locking its aim directly on Lacerta. She's quick and manages to land a hit on it, but it doesn't do much good. The slime has an absurd amount of HP and regenerates in the blink of an eye. Drago is shocked because such a broken regeneration can only mean the creature absorbed all the healing abilities from the forest. Knowing this, Drago sets the stage to try to finish the fight in a single blow without giving the enemy a chance to heal. But right at that moment, the slime raises its little hands and asks if Drago can understand what it's saying. Speaking in the human language, the slime suggests throwing in the towel and calling a truce. Drago immediately refuses, full of rage because the creature used those to destroy the village. But there's a catch. The slime doesn't understand a single thing, Drago growls back. The slime throws out the bait. If he was protecting the village, he must care about the people there. In a macabre tone, the creature asks if he wants to learn more about humans and with chilling calmness, takes on the form of those 2 children from before. It comments that the 2 had excellent taste, but unfortunately didn't drop any abilities. Things get even creepier as the slime keeps changing shape, turning into other humans. Drago freezes inside, terrified just imagining how many people have already been sent to their doom. To make matters worse, when the monster takes on Dos's own form, it confesses everything. It reveals that it controlled that human to lead the stone dragon to the village. And while the humans were losing their lives in the midst of the chaos, the slime just sat back and farmed a bunch of abilities without the slightest effort. Drago lays it all out and warns that he's going to wipe him out. The slime, seeing that the dragon is furious, throws out an absurd question. Could it be that Drago also wanted to devour the humans and was just protecting his own pantry? The goo even apologizes for interrupting the meal but says it needs to head to the village to farm as many abilities as possible. He even tries to play it cool, saying that if Drago wants to share the snack, it's all good. It even turns into a competition to see who can eat more. Drago tells him to shut up and stop talking nonsense because this time he's going to be erased. Meanwhile, back in the village, the girls are searching for the missing people. Miriam, looking up at the sky, says Drago's name. Milk Tea hears this and asks if that's one of the missing people, but Miriam explains that actually it's the name of the dragon, the Calamity, who tanked the danger and protected the place. Amelia finds the story interesting, but the conversation is cut short when an assistant announces they found people trapped in the rubble. They spring into action without wasting any time. Cut back to Drago. Our hero unleashes a blazing breath, grabs the slime's body, and sends the creature straight into the abyss with an absolutely meteoric blow. He turns to Lacerta and tells her that it's game over for the enemy and they can head home now. But right at that moment, he feels that heavy presence again. The slime is climbing up the abyss at a bizarre speed, now transformed into a spider. Back with the girls, they bring the rescued people to Muriel and let her know that Yuno and Daz are still out searching. Muriel in turn opens her heart to Miriam and confesses that she's incredibly relieved to see the girl safe and sound. She was terrified that the girl might have gone back to the forest since she knows the girl still believes in that calamity dragon. Miriam admits she's not sure if she still trusts him, but says that Drago wouldn't attack out of nowhere and that there must be some mistake in this story. Muriel immediately pushes back, reminding her that, like it or not, the creature sent Gregory to the afterlife and also attacked her. But Miriam stands her ground. There has to be a reason. That's why she wants to find Drago and get to the bottom of the story. Mariel shouts that this is pure madness, that you don't go making deals with monsters, especially not with one of the 3 greatest calamities in the world, and that she's not going to let the girl go and get herself killed over something foolish. You can feel the tension in the air. That's when Melthea steps in to calm things down. She lays it out straight. It's better to let the girl go see Drago, because if they try to stop her, she'll just end up running away to look for him anyway. Miriam agrees, and Melthea suggests that the 3 of them go together on this mission. Besides, it would be pretty smart of them to investigate what this dragon is really about. Mariel thinks it over, realizes it's the best thing for their future, and ends up agreeing. In the end, Melthea promises she'll protect everyone with her own life, but gives Miriam that motherly warning not to do anything stupid. Back to Drago, when he scans the monster, it hits him. It's the exact same slime, just cosplaying as a spider. Lacerta immediately charges in, but the slime regenerates in the blink of an eye. The slime, already looking bored, asks her to stop being a pain, warning that he hates it when people get in his way and that if she keeps being a nuisance, he'll have to delete her from the server. The slime activates its fire blades and instead of focusing on Drago, launches the attack at Lacerta to avoid getting backstabbed. The creature is hyped up, all excited because the fusion of 2 abilities gave it an insane buff, and it unleashes a storm of flaming blades at the dragon. Drago tanks the damage as best he can. Realizing that the enemy is half human, half spider, but deep down is still a slime, he goes straight to the source, focuses on the real body, and rips the slime out from inside the spider. The slime even begs for mercy, but Drago doesn't give it a chance and slices the creature in half. He thinks he finally got the win, but the slime just pulls itself back together, gives a sly grin, and reveals it was all a trick. The creature returns to the spider's body and explains that Drago tried to focus on a single vital point, but messed up badly because everything there is its body. The slime suggests ending this pointless fight once and for all, but Drago refuses and keeps up the combo. That's when the slime finally loses its patience. Annoyed by Drago's persistence, it warns that it's done playing around and now it's going to finish Drago off to steal his skills, conjuring a giant flaming blade, a one-hit kill attack that not even our hero could withstand. But out of nowhere, Lacerta shows up and catches the slime completely off guard. Unfortunately, the creature manages to throw her off and gets ready to send the poor thing to meet St. Peter, ensuring a clean one-on-one against Drago. Drago desperately tries to protect her, and that's when a miracle happens. Lacerta's poison finally takes effect. Drago checks the stats and notices that the boss has a severe poisoning debuff. The slime gets really stressed out because even though it has resistance, it never imagined that Lizard's poison would be so OP. Drago yells for Lacerta to get out of there fast, but the slime gets desperate, casts a slow spell, and traps her in an instant. Drago, of course, isn't going to let it slide and charges in with fire in his eyes. The problem is the slime throws up a thick smoke screen, blinding our hero. When the dust finally settles, Drago's heart freezes in panic. Lacerta is trapped inside some kind of bizarre cocoon. Meanwhile, the girls head deeper into the forest, and Mariel takes the opportunity during the walk to spill everything, telling all about the chaos that happened in the village. She explains that the Calamity Dragon wiped everyone out and left many victims, but Maya quickly puts a stop to her story. She corrects her friend, saying it was all a misunderstanding, since Drago was actually helping to stop 2 intruders. But Nana, who never misses a chance to be unpleasant, reminds everyone that it was him who sent Gregory to the afterlife. And that comment leaves Miriam speechless, with that look of someone who just lost the argument. Meanwhile, Melthea joins the conversation and says she also ran into the Calamity Dragon while she was hunting those 2. But there's a detail, the one she saw was in human form. Mariel explains that these dragons are masters of disguise and change their form just to fool humans, but she finds it strange that Melthea hadn't reported this before. Melthea tells it like it is. First, that it had nothing to do with her mission. Second, that neither she nor Juno would stand a chance against a creature like that. That's exactly why she asked for reinforcements, but since the guild's delivery is slow, they ended up missing the critical moment in the village. She apologizes for the delay, but says she didn't just sit around and actually did some investigating. Unfortunately, she found almost nothing because the Calamity Dragon is like an urban legend. Everyone talks about it, but no one really knows it. Mary tries to understand better, but Mel shuts her down and orders the group to keep moving forward. On the other side of the story, Drago goes into total panic. He realizes that Cherta's mana and HP are being drained at a crazy speed, like a phone with a worn-out battery. He tries to break the chrysalis by force, but the thing is way too tough. Needing an urgent plan B, he remembers that damn slime loves to combine powers and decides to try the same strategy. He mixes his wind blades with the dragon punch. The combo lands perfectly. The technique works and he finally manages to free Sirta. He feels a wave of relief seeing that she's okay and even thinks the worst is over, believing that Sirta's poison would finish off the slime soon. But the joy doesn't last long. The slime pops up right behind them and, with the utmost audacity, congratulates the two for holding out longer than he expected. Drago yells for Sirta to get out of there immediately, and when he looks at the slime and sees that the creature is completely fine, it finally hits him. The bastard stole her antidote ability. Now Sirta is vulnerable and the enemy is stronger than ever. The slime then takes the form of a Mahawolf and gives them the old, just give up, it's for the best talk. He suggests they become buddies since they're all monsters from the same forest and should be having fun together. But Drago wouldn't accept that deal even under torture. Miri is nearby in the village and he made a promise to Gregory. Besides that, Sirta and the orangutans are also at risk. If he lets it slide, this slime will steamroll everything he loves. And there's something that's making Drago uneasy. His revelation skill can't read this monster's full status. He realizes that the slime isn't just any creature, it understands how the world works. To have stolen exactly the antidote when it was poisoned, the slime had to analyze the situation coldly, which means it sees the world system the same way Drago does. At that moment, the slime notices that Drago is deep in thought and asks if he's scared now that he's seen the stockpile of accumulated skills. Then Drago confirms the suspicion. The slime confesses that it can see his entire status. It knows every detail, every skill, and reveals that it also hears that voice, the divine will that tells it to get stronger at any cost. Drago feels a deep disgust upon realizing that the slime is just a plaything in the hands of this manipulative god. Consumed by rage, he sets the entire battlefield on fire, making it clear that he won't let the slime escape no matter what. Things heat up and the slime also gets furious. While the fight rages on, Melthea notices that familiar smell of something burning. It doesn't take long before they spot a massive fire in the forest. Miriam and Melthea dash off in that direction while Maya follows behind, scolding them and yelling that they weren't supposed to act on their own. Amidst the flames, Sirta watches everything anxiously while the two titans charge at each other. The slime insists that this voice is the very structure of the world and that there's nothing to do but obey and level up. But Drago doesn't care about this flawed divine logic. He fights to protect those he cares about and follows only his own convictions. He attacks again, but the slime blocks it with an irritating ease. Drago is left completely frustrated. Even though he's superior in raw stats, the slime has a bucket load of skills to counter every one of his moves. The villain warns that victory is impossible, tells him to surrender for good, and uses the Mahawolf skill to call for reinforcements. Drago immediately figures out the plan. The slime wants to multiply the attacks just to find an opening and finish the fight. The mood really gets heavy when Drago sees the slime draining mana from the other monsters. The thing is a real vampire. Without wasting any time, he charges in to keep the slime from healing. He takes out the Mahawolves easily, but ends up slipping up with the fourth wolf that was lying in wait. In that moment of distraction, the slime takes advantage and sinks its spikes into Drago, almost sending our hero off to have a chat with St. Peter. The slime starts laughing like a psychopath, warning that this time it's going to devour him alive. The villain's plan is bizarre. He tries to possess Drago, literally entering his body. He already starts celebrating his victory, but Drago says he's had enough of this nonsense. He's not going to let anyone control his body, and out of nowhere, he starts shooting up into the sky at an absurd speed. The slime from inside asks what kind of madness this is, thinking Drago is going to try crashing into the ground again, which would be pretty predictable. Down below, the girls look up, completely confused, and Sirta is worried sick about her partner. To try to stop Drago, the slime starts piercing his body from the inside. He celebrates his victory, saying he's going to steal all of Drago's skills and that just with the dust from his scales, he'll wipe out entire villages without anyone ever suspecting a monster. The slime is ecstatic, laughing out loud, but then Drago remembers Sirta and Miriam. He won't let this sewer drain touch them. Taking advantage of the fact that the slime is stuck to him, Drago turns into a missile and goes into a free fall toward the ground. The slime is in shock, asking if Drago's energy has run out and if they're falling by accident. While the girls watch the spectacle from afar, Drago powers up to maximum strength. From that height, not even the toughest slime in the world would survive the impact. The creature goes into total panic, begging Drago to stop because both of them are going to be toast. The slime gives in, promises not to go to the village and says it will disappear from the forest, but Drago doesn't care at all. Say goodbye to your trash deity, he must have thought. The slime attacks Drago from the inside in a final effort to break free, shouting that it promised the divine voice it would become the strongest, but Drago couldn't care less about someone else's promise. With iron determination, he crashes into the abyss. Boom, everything goes white. After the dust settles, Miriam shows up desperate, looking for Drago. Melthea and Serta are also searching, but luck wasn't on their side. The rain made the river overflow and the current carried Drago's body away. Maria tries to go after him, but Melthea holds her back. Maria even slaps her friend to see if she snaps out of it and calms down. Meanwhile, Serta stays there by the riverbank, mourning in silence. Later, back in the village, Yuno asks what happened, and Melthea sums it up. It looked like the Calamity Dragon was fighting for his life against something sinister. Mary agrees, but admits that the whole situation was way too confusing for her to process. Mariel comments to Melthea that Miriam will probably want to leave the village. She says the girl is sensible, which is a joke, right? Because the girl has sensible written on her forehead. That's irony, by the way. But since the little one wants to see the world, she asks Melthea to give her some advice. With a determined look, Miriam whispers Drago's name. She now has a mission. Meanwhile, Serta goes back to the orangutans and tells them to take care of the cave until she returns. The heartbreaking detail is that now there's a statue of the two of them hugging at the entrance. Cut to the next scene and we see Drago's eye opening. He feels that heavy deja vu, panics thinking he died again and turned into an egg. But no, he just comes out from under a pile of sand. He wonders if he defeated the slime and starts shouting for Serta and Miriam. But when he looks around and sees the landscape, despair hits. Where the hell did he end up? And that's how this anime ends on a high note. A perfect 10, no doubt. Comment the final word so I know you made it this far and I'll give your comment a heart. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Without further ado, Rebobina says goodbye and see you next time.